What's going on, my social media family? It's your boy Mike Jack. So I've been out for a few days sick under the weather, but now I'm feeling better. So I just want to get back on my YouTube video and put out some more of this content to help people. So today I am making a video about the other side of the coin, as I call it. You know, some of the challenges in real estate that are really challenging for realtors on a day-to-day, life of a real estate agent. What is it really like? Like, what are some of the pitfalls and the horror stories that realtors go through that a lot of people don't talk so much about? So when you see realtors on social media, example, you see a lot of realtors celebrating a closing or getting a deal, getting their offer accepted. Those are great accolades for a realtor. But there are also situations where a realtor doesn't get an offer accepted. It happens more than you think, or a deal gets canceled. And all of a sudden that realtor put in all this work and is getting paid. So let's talk about it. So real quick, in a short summary, in a nutshell, there's a lot of things that realtors go through that makes this business tough, right? But I'm just going to talk about a few of the common things, just a few, because I can go on all day about this. So let's start with number one. The number one on my list would just simply be cancel contracts. And this happens, believe it or not, this happens a lot more after the appraisal is assessed on a home property. And from the start of purchasing a home, it takes a lot to get a buyer prepared, right? So like if you're a buyer's agent, you're helping them get their credit score improved. You're helping them get more reserves and savings so that way they can pay for closing costs. So you're doing all these things for months, nurturing your client. And then all of a sudden it's showtime. The client's ready to buy a house. You get into a contract. Bam, you finally got your offer accepted after losing out on offer after offer in this competitive market. Then the appraisal comes down and all of a sudden the buyer and seller just can't agree on the terms. And it's one of the things that could be negated by, in my opinion, proper education and lack of ego. But the reality is people sometimes, mostly sellers in this situation, their eyes get really big and they're looking at numbers and all of a sudden they're getting greedy. They're counting pennies. And guys, the goal is to sell your home. The facts are whatever you pay for your home, okay, and whatever you're selling your home, you're going to get more for what you sold for than what you paid. So you've already came on the top. So you're going to have some people, I'm not saying all sellers, but a large portion of the time when cancel contracts happen, a lot of them are due to appraisals, not being able to agree on them. So it ends up people back out of them. And a big reason is sometimes sellers don't want to accept that the value of their home is not worth what they want for the house. So if an appraiser comes out there and assesses it and says, hey, your house is not just worth this much. Hey, I mean, that's how it works. Your house is worth what it's worth. It doesn't matter what things around you sold for. It's going to come down to what the appraiser assesses it. Now, can you get the top dollar that you do? Every deal is unique and different, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But make a long story short, a lot of deals fall through due to an appraisal not being able to agree. And if there's a contingency in there, the buyer does have the right to back out. So, yeah, guys, I would always encourage people to make sure that they don't count pennies, as I call it, and just remember the goal is to sell the house. And I'm sure the buyers want to purchase and the sellers want to sell. It can be a lot easier, and that's what realtors are involved for. We bring those parties together to help them negotiate. But what makes it harder is when you have another realtor on the other side, whether they're for the buyer's agent or the seller, the listing agent, then sometimes realtors get emotionally involved just as much as the buyer and sellers, and that doesn't help. We are the experts here. We're supposed to help manage the situation, and we have to play like a mediator, if you will. But unfortunately, some people really take on the personality of their seller rather than set expectations. And then they act like they're selling their house and they make it personal. And when realtors do that, it makes deals a lot tougher to complete. And I can't tell you how many deals that I've seen people lose simply because of ego. I mean, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, when people go back on the market, it's really not advantaged for that seller or the buyer, because now the buyer has to go back out and start over again and wait another 45 days. And now the seller has to do the same thing. And hopefully they find another buyer equal or greater value. But the reality is, once it goes back on the market, most of the time that property is not going to be valued at the same as it was when it originally went on. So, yeah, it's a tough situation. So a cancel contract is a really big challenge for a realtor because you put in so much time. And when we're in the industry where we only get paid based on results. So if we don't get the results, we don't get paid. And think about how much time you spent, months of preparation, and then in another few months just to be able to close. You're talking about at least 2 to 3 months minimum when you're trying to help nurture a client and then find a house and then get in the contract and then close. It's like, man, after 3 months, you don't get paid. That's frustrating. That is frustrating, and that's a reality of our industry. So while it's nice to get paid so much income when you do close, you look at how long it takes to close, it's kind of disheartening when you don't. So yeah, that's the thing. Also, builders, when they're paying flat fees, meaning like 1% commission, like that's also another disheartening thing for realtors. You know, a lot of realtors aren't really enthused in working with a lot of builders that are paying like a 1% commission of a flat fee. I mean, it's disheartening when you know majority of builders are paying way more than that. So, you know, for a realtor, we're doing the same amount of work, we're doing the same papers and everything else, but you're paying us super less, you know, and that's crazy. But that's an issue in the real estate community. Unfortunately, some builders do that, and when they do that, you know, it's like, hey, you know, you don't really you make it clear up front that you guys are more about your money than the client and the realtor being compensated, and that's an unfortunate part. But as a realtor, you have avenues to protect you, and you can, you know, go about that how you want. But yeah, I show my clients, I don't really care. I try not to care about the commission in that way, but at the same time, the commission is a priority because this is how we survive. This is our means of survive. So we do want to make sure that we close. We do want to make sure our clients is happy so we can get more referrals. But at the same time, you know, it is disheartening when some builders are paying you way lower than, you know, most builders on average. So, but those are a couple things. There's so many things I didn't cover, guys, but just make a long story short, if you get into the real estate business, it is not just making commission checks and getting paid and living this wonderful, lavish life. It is a lot of work, especially if you don't have a transaction coordinator. You got to manage all the paperwork and files. You got to keep all parties on the same page so that way your deal can close smoothly. You have inspectors, you have contractors, you have title companies, you have lenders, you have other agent, you have your own client. You know, so you got all these parties involved, and you got to make sure that they're all on the same page because none of them are talking to each other. You're the intermediate for everybody, and you have to make sure everything is working in one well-oiled machine. So it can be very stressful, guys, but at the end of the day, it is a lucrative field, and it's something that you really have to have a heart of love for it to make it fun. And that's all I can say. This is why some people don't last in it, because it ends up stressing them out. So, but yeah, it's a good field overall. You just have to find a formula that works for you. And once you do that, it's a lot more easier to adjust and adapt to it. Make sure you join a team and get a mentor, because if you don't have those things, it's going to be a lot harder when you're first starting out. All right, guys, hope this video helps you, and have an amazing day.